route.
Okay.
And then with our tool, we would have figured that out.
That
but
was the key.
We saw the wrong side, which we already knew was for. We're like, so we didn't use our tool.
So in the one opportunity they had to use their technology, and this happens in science, if you only have one opportunity to use it and it doesn't get used in the right place or the right time to see that extra clue, then what they saw when they used the tool was what they already knew, and that didn't help them.
Right. So I think what we learned, and that's what we were discussing, is that we need to be careful that you don't take a few things, just like there were two evidences there that it equaled 10. We just said, oh, okay, then the third one has to equal 10, and boom, we went on, and that was it. And that was the mistake. We can't just go, we can't just go with two pieces and then make a conclusion based on that. So, we learned
So our
that.
name was Frida, because of that 5.
We were totally wrong.
But I mean, we hit God.
Not totally wrong.
No, on the name we were totally wrong.
Not totally.
And it was a girl.
And it was a girl.
But if we're talking life and death here.
No, but I would
Absolute. Depending on when you saw what was. Right. Right.
It's not like our claim matched our evidence and all of that.
Right. And one of the how often is it exactly right? Phelan?
The way you lay out problems at the beginning often drives the way you start thinking and put down a tunnel. Sometimes you don't.
Good point.
That,
Yeah.
like, I do it out this way at the beginning and thought, oh, this is a good idea, and then it led us down a way that we were both, but
So you're thinking if maybe you had organized your information a different way, that might have taken you to a different conclusion. So that, go ahead.
Phelan, that emphasizes the point where we have to teach kids to think differently. We have to teach them to go down and use different modalities and things like that. Kathy told an example last night at dinner where this company hires based on not their credentials, not their grades, not their education and things like that. But they hand them a problem and they say, solve the problem. And they don't care if they get the right answer or not, but it's how to get there. And that's the way the company hires. I know Google does a lot of that too. So you're right. If you get tunnel vision, then you don't see the other opportunities, right? So.
Has anybody seen the movie Imitation Game? So that kind of came up in our conversation as well. Imitation Game is a movie where these British mathematicians were trying to figure out how to break the German code for Enigma, which was a code they used to encrypt all of their messages to each other. And these group of mathematicians were getting together, and the tricky thing is that it would only last for 24 hours, and then the code would change every 24 hours based on this machine. And so every day these mathematicians were working at looking at the messages coming in and trying to decode it based on those messages. Every day they had to start all over again because the code was completely different. Well, the main character in this movie figured out he needed to design a machine that could go through the iterations to figure out and break the code. And it was that process.
And they thought he was completely crazy.
Right.
And when
But it was
when
that
he hired people,
way of thinking.
he didn't hire the mathematicians. He hired the people that were thinking completely out of the box.
Go to our last group here.
Okay.
So, our name was that a brown side with Francine and 8 on the top right-hand corner and 4 on the left-hand corner. Do you want me to go over all the others?
Your name.
Oh, Francine, how did we come up with the right spelling?
So they got the right spelling.
Yeah, so we were really confident from the beginning of Francine just because we could see the pattern with the number, the sequential order. And then when we looked at the right corner, we saw it was an 8, so that really verified that. Francine. We didn't actually stop there because there was 2 spellings for Francine. We put the I because it seemed like the most common way we spell Francine, but then when we went back and instead of just sitting there, we're like, Kelly was doing it mostly. She was looking, she goes, there has to be some kind of clue for the spelling because there were 2 different spellings. Well, there were 3, but one said it wasn't very common. So we then looked, Kelly started looking again, and we noticed that none of the names had the letter I in it. And so that was like, okay, let's just change it and go with the E, because that way we have. So we added on here with evidence there's no I in any of the names, and we added that to our reasoning. So that's how we concluded that Francine with an E.
And maybe that's the reason it's Francine with an E, and maybe it's not. That's a pattern that they saw. There's different ways to spell that same sound. There's those variations that we don't always know why.
That kind of bothered me because early on we noticed that the names went, like the girl names had ended in an A.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that there's no, like, just because there's no I in the names, like, to me that doesn't really give me enough evidence to believe it. But the fact that the pattern is they end with an A, like, to me naturally it would end with an A. And so I just can't, like, I feel like almost like, yeah.
So was there a pattern in the ending of the male names? Just a question.
I don't think we explored that, but we did recognize very early on that the girls' names ended in A, and we also Googled stuff. So Francina was the only one that we found that had 8 letters and followed that pattern. But I want to go with that because that has actual evidence, and I mean, not that doesn't, but it's not like. It's not a pattern that is visible. I don't know.
Is it possible for evidence to lead you astray?
Well,
Yeah.
and it goes back to the same.
For that
when
pattern
you
you're
went the
looking
wrong way,
for.
There was one little thing that changed your reasoning for spelling, but it could have just as easily gone this way where it was just one little thing and you were wrong.
So what we did differently is we looked at the patterns that throughout, because we looked at theirs and they had 2 opposite outcomes than what we had. So our claim, we actually have Francine with an I if your pattern is true. I mean, if our pattern stayed true. So we looked at what stayed true and what new observations we came up with the new observation. If your pattern stays true, ending with an A, then it's Francina. If your I's in any other name, then the second possibility is true. However, that possibility would not be true with our patterns that did stay true. Does that make sense? So it's all relevant. There's no evidence that's going to tell us whether your pattern stays true or your pattern stays true. Which name will it be in the end? It's up to the creators. Like I said, it's up to your mom how you spell your name. It all goes back to the core. Who decided to make the cube with a Francine with an I, a Francine with an E, or a Francine with an A? It's all up to the creator of the cube.
Also
And
based on the
So
evidence
you
that
would
you-
have to have, yeah, go
Right,
for it.
so it's also based on the evidence that you provided, how solid it is.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like you said, yeah, it feels a little bit cheated that it's just one letter, and based on that, and that can be relevant to what their
constraint.
argument is.
A constraint would be
Right.
it cannot have an I. That would make your solution true. Or a constraint would be it has to have an A, which would make your pattern true. Or it
And-
could be ours, which is we know it's either 3.
Now that I said
And-
it out loud, like, why isn't that a pattern? So, just like,
So here's something to think about. Going back to what this group said, is they were thinking that the opposites added to 10, but they only had 2 instances to look at that the opposites added to 10, because when they when they looked at the number on the bottom, they saw what was already known. So they only had 2 pieces of evidence to base that assumption that it was 10. You guys only had 2 names that you were basing that pattern on, that the girl names ended in
But
A.
then now I'm arguing against myself and saying they have 2 names that follow the pattern that there's no I. So
there's
there's 5 names that follow the pattern.
But we're saying, don't we have more evidence if you look at the 5 visible eyes? That's 5 evidence versus 2 with A.
Which was also why I asked you if the main names had a pattern of the ending, because that would have been another piece of evidence to support
If
that
they had
ending.
And we will look at the ending. So if we're
Yeah.
looking at all the components that are visual to us, then the E spelling is a lot stronger claim than the ending.
Had more evidence.
Right.
But in the reality of science is, you don't always get to look at this. There are, you know, you've got mutations in genetics, you've got, you know, other things that happen that change that pattern over
What
time.
if I would have wanted to name my daughter Francine? You know what I'm saying?
Go for it.
What if I want to name, we were saying Franz, is it a boy name or a girl name? On our form, it says it's a girl, on theirs it says it's a boy.
Okay. Okay. So,
See, we're arguing our evidence.
is this it? I can't remember your writing. Okay, so go back. Go back to your quick write at the very beginning, where we asked you. I can't go back to the original prompt. What does a scientist do, and how does he set up his investigations? And then I added to that, how do they communicate, and what is the importance of that? So go back to your original quick write. And now that you've gone through the experience, I want you to add to your quick write. What does a scientist do? How do they set up their investigations? That's my cadre person, sorry. How do they set up their investigations, and how would you amend your quick write? There's a lot more to it.